Hey, it's Rob. We're back. This time we're doing a Hack the Box walkthrough. We're doing a machine called Baby. It is a Windows machine and it is rated as easy. It's a Windows domain controller. And of course, I didn't find it that easy, but that's just me. So without further ado, you can see I am on Hack the Box's VPN and I do have Baby spun up, and here's the IP address. First thing that we did, we ran an mmap scan, service version detection T4, all ports aggressive, and everything indicative of a domain controller came back. WinRM could be in play here with 5985. We have Windows Terminal Services, RDP 3389, and then all the rest of the ports are the normal things that you would see on Active Directory, DNS, Kerbrute, RPC, SMB, LDAP, etc. So whenever we run across these, the first thing that we need to do is we need to get the domain and the name of the domain controller, babydc and baby.vl, into the etc host file. So I've already done that, but I'm going to show you what I've done. So you can see I have an entry with the IP address. You just hit tab. I have baby.vl for the domain, space, and then I have babydc.baby.vl for the fully qualified name for the domain controller. So we're going to hit Control X. I did do some SMB client enumeration. I think paste the IP address. If I hit enter and then I hit enter again, we get this error. So there's really not a lot you can do with SMB here. So the next thing I tried to do was to enumerate with kerbrute, and this is how I did it. And it really wasn't very successful, but I'm going to show you anyway. So administrator comes back, and that's really it. So no surprises there, no guest account that we can take advantage of or anything. You can try and do an RID brute with the administrator account with NXC, but that's not going to work. What ultimately I used, which produced results, is a tool that I only recently started using because I wasn't really good with it, called ldapsearch. And when you do that, we get some good stuff back, and I will explain this command when I get it in here. So I'm going to paste it. What we're doing here is we're using ldapsearch, simple authentication. We're passing it the LDAP URL on the domain controller babydc, babyvl, sorry. And this object class star means you want to query all objects. So when we do that, we get a bunch of stuff back. There's a bunch of names, and one thing I noticed was that there were some names that didn't have, for example, SAM names. So like what a lot of people would do here, for example, is if we just copy the SAM name, if you run that command again and you grep on SAM name, you get a list of users, but I noticed that there were some users that didn't have a SAM name, like Carolyn Robinson, and I believe there's another one up higher. So I didn't do that. What I did was I actually went through and I compiled the list of all of the users kind of manually. There's really not that many, but in the interest of time, I'll show you what I did. I just created a file called users_raw.txt. And I copied all the users in there, including the ones that didn't have a SAM name coming out via the ldapsearch. So we have, it looks like 10 users. So the other interesting thing that I noticed in the ldapsearch is if we scroll up a bit, I think it's Teresa Bell. It says right here, initial password set to babystart123. That looks like one of those generic passwords when somebody starts and your initial password is welcome 123 exclamation point or whatever. So the first thing that we're going to try, obviously, is to see if that's a valid set of credentials. And I'm going to use NXC for that. You could even try to you could try WinRM, but I think you get a little bit more here when you try this here. So it looks like that is not the correct password for Teresa. So potentially it was when it was initially set, and then she did what she was supposed to do, which is change your initial password. But because this looks like one of those generic start passwords, I mean, it is baby, the domain, and baby start 123 exclamation point. I'm telling you, I've been in IT for 30 years, and I've seen a lot of that where it's welcome 123 or welcome to whatever the company name is 123 exclamation point. I thought we would do a little bit of password spraying with kerbrute. And so that's what we're going to do. You saw that I created that users underscore raw.text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray the rest of these usernames and see if any of them are still set with that password. So if we paste the clipboard, you can see I'm doing kerbrute password spray, the domain, the DCP IP address, the user underscore raw.text file that I created, and we're using that baby start 123 exclamation point password. So if we hit enter, Peter, Carolyn Robinson, one of the ones who didn't have a SAM name set, probably because maybe she didn't log in yet or is a brand new user, her password is set to baby start 123. So what I thought I would do is clear the screen and then try and see if we could log in with that credential. So let's try and do SMB client. Well, actually, let's try and do another NXC statement. See what happens. I don't remember if I did this or not. We're going to try it. Paste clipboard, and we're going to change this to Carolyn Robinson. Copy. And see what happens. Ah, look at this. So it looks like it's not successful, but it says status password must change. So you can do that with NXC, I'm pretty sure, but I've always found it's very easy to just change it with SMB client or SMB password. So that's what we're going to do. So Carolyn is a potential here because the password works, but it's flagged as the password must change. So she probably hasn't logged in yet. This is her first login, and she has to change her password on the initial login. So what we're going to do is we're going to use SMB password. And we're just doing Carolyn Robinson. The user is Carolyn Robinson from the baby domain. And we're making the request to baby.vl. So we're going to hit enter. And it's going to ask for the old password. So we're going to copy that. Paste clipboard. Then we're going to do a new password. So let's see. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Welcome. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm making it fairly complex because I don't know what the password policy is. We could probably query that with NXC, but I just made it complex. It's complicated as the previous password, at least. Okay, password has changed for Carolyn Robinson. So you know what that means. The first thing we're going to try is to evil-winrm. So let's do it. So we're using evil-winrm to log in as the user Carolyn Robinson with the password welcome123 exclamation point exclamation point exclamation point to the IP address of the domain controller. Okay, so if I do who am I, priv, we see something here that actually I was very excited when I saw it. It's the SE backup privilege. I immediately said to myself, what we're going to do here is we're going to back up the SAM and the system using RegSave. We're going to copy it back to our computer. We're going to use PyPyCats to decrypt it or crack it and get the administrator hash and log in. So that's what we're going to try to do. So if you haven't done this before, this should be one of the attacks you have in your notes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go to the root of the, let's see if we can get a flag first. .cd desktop dir type user.txt. There's the user flag. Now I'm going to go to the root of the C drive. I'm going to do a dir. I'm actually going to make a directory called temp. I'm going to cd into temp. And then what I'm going to do is the first command that we want to run, if you've never done this, like I said, this should be a standard attack vector that's in your notes. We're running reg save, and this only works because this person has the SC backup privilege. Okay, reg save hkey local machine SAM, and we're saving it to C temp SAM. So I'm going to hit enter. Okay, if I do a dir, there's the SAM. Now we need to do the system. Same command, only it's hkey local machine system, and then we're saving it to C temp system. We're going to hit enter. Command completed successfully. All right, so now we need to get these to our machine. So the way you do that with WinRM, you can do, I believe it's download. It might be upload. I always get them confused. Upload SAM. Oh, it is download. It's very, WinRM always gets the best of me with the upload and the download. So we're going to download SAM. That means we're downloading it from the attack machine to our computer. Okay, that's done. Now we're going to do the system, but you can see that system file is way bigger than the SAM file. So once it starts to download, I am going to actually pause the video until it's done, because I think the last time it took a good 3 or 4 minutes. All right, here we go. All right, so I'm going to pause the video now. I will be right back. Okay, we're back. That took quite a bit of time to get over to the attack machine, so I'm glad I paused the video. So right now we should have SAM and system on our attack machine. If we go back to our computer, we can see they're there. Now the tool you're going to be using to take advantage of the SAM in the system is a tool called PyPyCats. If you use DeWalt's Pimp My Kali, it will be installed by default. If you do not use that enhancement for Kali, you are going to want to go to this GitHub repository right here, Skelsec, and you can just git clone this, add it to your path, whatever it is you need to do, and you'll be able to use PyPyCats. Link will be in the description below. So if we go to our home directory again, and we open a terminal here, the command you're going to want to run is very simple. PyPyCats registry. We're taking advantage of the SAM, and then it has to be run in the same directory as you have the SAM and the system files in. So we're going to hit enter. And we have the administrator hashes. Now, the part of the hash that you need is the NT portion, which is the second part, not the LM portion. So I was jumping for joy. I was like, oh boy, here we go. I'm going to evil-winrm using the hash, and I'm going to get in to the administrator account. So let's give that a try. We're using evil-winrm. We're trying to log in as the administrator. We're using the NT portion of the NTLM hash from above. Now, this is the local administrator to the machine, the local admin on the machine. And we're trying to log on to the domain controller's IP address. So we're going to hit enter. And it's not going to work. I'm going to be a spoiler, which to me seems to indicate that potentially, as it probably should be, the local administrator account is probably disabled. I know that we do that at my company, and it's good practice to not have the local admin account enabled, if at all possible. So I knew what the next course of action was going to be, because if we can't log in as the local administrator, we got to try and get the credentials for the domain. The problem is the credentials for the domain are not in the SAM database. They are in the ntds.dit. And that is a really complicated file in the sense that when the machine is up and running, that file is locked and you can't read it, you can't write to it, you can't do anything to it. But because Carolyn has the SE backup privilege, we could potentially use some tools to be able to dump that ntds.dit. Now, I had to do research on this because I had never done it before. And I found this nice write-up, Red Team's notes, where they talk about how to do it. And basically, you got to create a script and follow the instructions. So you have to have, you do your script. It uses a utility called diskshadow, which enables you to make basically a shadow backup of the running ntds.dit file. And then what they tell you to do is once that's done, you can just run command.exe and copy the ntds.dit file over. That didn't work. This command thing, I don't know if it required administrative rights or what, but this did not work. So there's a second part to this. Once we actually do the dumping of the ntds.dit, we have to figure out how to basically get it to where we need it to be. And I'll get to that when we get to that part of the walkthrough. There's another nicely written article on Medium that gives you really good instructions on how to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by creating this script. Now I'm going to do it, but I have some modifications that I'm going to be making to it. Nothing major. All I'm doing is changing some of the variables, I guess you would call them. So if you look, he has it where there's this alias trophy create, and then for a while I screwed up. I didn't realize that you have to change this some alias to the actual alias that you use. So if you look, I made those changes here. So I called it loot, and then I exposed loot. So the some alias is replaced by loot. So what this is essentially going to do is it's going to make like a shadow version of the ntds.dit that's mapped to like the Z drive is what we're doing here. Now, here's a really important thing, because I couldn't figure out why this darn thing wouldn't work for the longest time. And I've run across this with other things, moving files between Windows and Linux. There's these two utilities. There's Unix to DOS and DOS to Unix. You need to use those, and you need to run them on these text files before you copy things over, because it really cleans everything up. And if you don't use it on this file, the shadow.txt, it will not work. Okay? So now that we have our little script created, it's not really a script, it's basically a set of instructions. What we're going to do is we're going to open a terminal here. Actually, open a terminal here. So I have shadow.txt. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run that command. We're going to run Unix to DOS on shadow.txt. Okay. Now, we need to get this over to the other machine. I believe we can use evil-winrm. I'll give that a try real quick. So what we'll do, this is the one that didn't work, and then here's our foothold. What we're going to do is I'm going to upload shadow.txt and see if that works. It did. Okay, so if we do an ls, we have shadow.txt there. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to go back to the C drive, and I need to make dir loot, because remember, that's the file, that's the directory that we, the alias that we indicated that we're going to be using. So make directory loot. So now if I do a dir we have temp, we have loot. Okay, so now here's the problem. What we need to do is run this disk shadow. And we're going to run it just like this. This is the command that actually does the shadow copying of the live ntds.dit. And what we're doing is we're telling that this to use a script in the temp folder called shadow.txt, which is the one we just created. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. So we're going to hit enter. And that did not work. So let's see why. Oh no, shadow copy was successfully exposed on Z. Okay, let's see if we can cd Z and see what happens. Yes, do a dir. We're in business. It actually did work. For some reason, I thought that was an error because that seemed like it happened really quick. All right, so let's go back to C. And I believe this is where I want to show you this one. I found this Windows privilege escalation with SE backup written by Red Bucket on Medium. Excellent, excellent article. He basically does the same thing as the previous one. His script is a little different. He actually gave me the solution to how we were going to get this over, and we're going to use robocopy. Now, because we have that SE backup privilege, we should be able to use robocopy. So let's see how that works. What we're going to do is we're going to use robocopy to copy the ntds.dit, but obviously ours is going to be on the Z drive. And we're going to copy it to ntds.dit in the current directory. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put it in I'm going to go into the temp directory and do that. All right, let's see how this works. I had some troubles with this, so hopefully for this video, the YouTube gods are kind to me. So cd tmp, and then here's the command that you're going to run. Copy. Paste clipboard. Robocopy, and we're doing Z Windows ntds.dit dot, and we're naming it ntds.dit. Okay? And I'm going to pause while this is running because I think it may take a minute or two. Oh no, it's done already. So let's see what we got. ls. It looks like we have the ntds.dit. Wonderful. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the ntds.dit over to my machine. We're going to use download ntds.dit. Now this is going to take a while too because this isn't as big as the system file, but you can see from the length it's a pretty large file. All right, so, and actually it would help if I actually spelled download correctly. So download ntds.dit. And what I'm going to do is once this starts downloading, which I think it is, I'm going to pause the video and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So it successfully downloaded the ntds.dit. So now we need to go back to our folder. The good news is it's a good thing you went through that reg save and dumped the SAM in the system because you will need the system regardless. So if you skip that thinking that because it didn't work you weren't going to do it, you need to go back and do it because you need this system file to use Impact secretsdump, which is the way we're going to take advantage of the ntds.dit. So I'm going to open a terminal here, and then the command that we're going to use to take advantage of the ntds.dit is right here. Copy, paste. So basically, it has to be run in the same folder that the ntds.dit and the system file are in. Okay, so we're going to hit enter on this, and boom. It just dumped all of the hashes for the domain administrator. So if you look, this nt hash is definitely different than the previous one. So now, because we have that, and let me just make sure I have that over here. Yep. What we can do is clear the screen. We can now evil-winrm in as the administrator by passing the NT hash. So copy, paste. So evil-winrm administrator, here's the new hash we have for the domain admin, not for the local admin. And we're logging into the domain controller's IP. And boom, there you go. cd ... cd desktop, type, I forget if this is hack the box, so dir, okay, it's root.txt, so type root.txt, and there's the flag. So the way we took advantage of this box was ran an mmap scan, typical domain controller, added all the domain info to our host file, tried to do some enumeration of SMB, that didn't work, moved on to trying to enumerate users with NXC and kerbrute, that didn't really work. Had some great success with ldapsearch, was able to obtain a potential password as well as a list of 10 users. Did a password spray using kerbrute, found out that one of the users' password was still the initial password. Used NXC to see if we could log in using those credentials. It said it was flagged for a password change. Use SMB password to change the password. Then logged in with evil-winrm. Did a whoami/priv, saw the SE backup privilege, figured this was going to be easy. Dumped the SAM in the system using regsave. Brought it over to my machine, used PyPyCats. Ultimately, got the local administrator hash. Unfortunately, it seems the local administrator account is disabled on that computer. Next thing was to try and get the domain credentials, we would have to dump the ntds.dit. I wasn't really familiar with how to do that. I found a couple of articles. The links will be in the description below. We created a set of instructions and then used diskshadow to do a shadow copy of the live ntds.dit file. We were able to dump that. Then we used robocopy to move it to into our directory. And then after that, we just downloaded it to our attack machine and then used in-packet secretsdump to basically dump the domain hashes contained in the ntds.dit. Once we had the domain administrator's NT hash, we were able to use evil-winrm to log in and get the flag. So this was a very hard machine. I had a lot of trouble with the robocopy and the disk shadow stuff. It took a while to get that to work, but I really did learn a lot on this machine. This is going to be another one of my attack vectors, so I have notes for dumping the SAM and system. Now I have notes for dumping the ntds.dit. So I hope you found this video useful. I hope you learned something. All the links will be in the description below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, just want to say hi, drop a comment below. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.